Hello, my name is Niamh. I'm going to read you through the participant information sheet for the Mars study. This asks, do you want to join this research study? We invite you to take part in the study, and this information is written to help you understand why the research is being done and what it would involve if you took part. So we'll read it together and then take some time to think about whether you want to take part, and you can talk to family and friends if that helps you decide. So why have we invited you? We've invited you because you have aphasia, and we're asking adults with aphasia after stroke to come and support this project. The staff who work on the project are speech and language therapists, so they will help you to take part. Why are we doing this study? Aphasia is a long-term condition. It affects how people talk, and it can be improved with treatment. But at the moment, words and sentences are often treated, but not long chunks of talking. So the stories that we tell in conversation. And people want treatment for this everyday talking. If we're going to treat everyday talking, we need to be able to assess it. We need to be able to assess discourse. And speech therapists tell us that they want to work on discourse, but it just takes too long to assess it. So what we're doing is working with a tech company to see if we can get software that makes discourse assessment quicker. So can we help therapists to make the assessment quicker and easier? Can we support that process using tech? You do not have to take part. It's your choice. You can say yes and then change your mind. You don't have to say why. You won't be penalised in any way. And it won't affect any other services or treatments you're receiving. If you do decide to take part, we'll ask you to sign a consent form. So what will happen if you do take part? You'll meet a speech therapist researcher twice. You'll meet me for the screening and consent, and I'll meet you probably online, if that works for you. I'll double check that you understand what the study is about and that you want to take part. And we'll ask you to sign a consent form if you're interested. The second time you meet researchers will be in person at your home. We can do it at the university if that's easier, but on the whole we're going to come to people's houses. In this session we expect to take 2 hours. In that assessment you'll complete 3 assessments. These are like clinical tests that look at your communication, look at your speech sounds. And we'll ask you to tell us a story from your life, so tell us about an event that happened. And we'll ask you what it was like to tell a story about your life. So if you choose to take part with the Mars project, you'll be with us for about 3 weeks. And what is it that you have to do? So in the session we'll have 3 assessments. We'll have you telling a story to the app, so it sits on an iPad and you'll speak to the iPad. And we'll have you ask you about your experience of telling the story to the app. So these 3 things. Let's go through each one of those. The assessments we do, we want to know if the app, the Mars software, can detect all kinds of speech. So including the kinds of changes that you have to your speech after a stroke. There's 2 speech sound changes after stroke, one called dysarthria, one called apraxia. So we're going to test to see if you have dysarthria or not. And we're going to test to see if you have apraxia or not. And we're going to do a test that tells us the kind of aphasia that you have, because you'll probably know that different people have different kinds of aphasia. We'll share all of this information with you, so we'll tell you if you have dyspraxia or dysarthria or aphasia. In these assessments what will happen is you do things like describing a picture, repeating words, naming things, following instructions. There'll be bits around moving muscles for speech, like moving your tongue, blowing out your cheeks, checking the muscles are working. We'll also check coordination of speech muscles, so making sequences of movements like pateka, those kind of things. So those are the assessments. The second part is telling a story. Here we'll ask you to tell a story from your life. Think of something that's happened that you might share with your family or friends. So it can be something funny, it can be something interesting, it could be something you've learned. There's many different things you can choose. And at the end, we will ask you what it was like to think about a story, to tell it to the app. We'll check what things you liked or didn't like and what things were easy or difficult about telling the story. We're not going to pay you for taking part in this research. There are no particular medical risks, but you do give up your time. Sometimes people find that tiring or frustrating. And if this happens, we can stop and carry on another time. We're not expecting the project to help you. This is not therapy. But you will see a profile of your language. So for example, the kinds of words that you might use, like do I use lots of nouns? Do I use lots of verbs in my speech? Do I use adjectives that describe the noun? And we've found that people are often really interested in hearing this about their own speech and understanding their condition a bit better. You will be contributing to tools that improve clinical practice, so you're helping speech and language therapists in their job and creating new knowledge in the field of aphasia research. These next sections are about how we use the information about you. We're going to ask about your information. We're going to ask you things like your age, your sex, your ethnicity, the languages you speak. We'll ask you about your stroke, when you had your stroke. And we'll also keep the answers to the assessments. So there's assessments that look at your aphasia and look at your speech sounds after stroke. We're also going to record the story session, and so you'll be visible in those recordings. Research data is kept at the university for 10 years, so all of this information is kept for 10 years. Very few people will know who your name is, and only those who really need it for the study. Otherwise, we keep your data, we keep your answers against a code number, like an identification number. And this keeps information safe and secure. And when we finish the study, we keep the data connected to your number, but we don't need to keep your name and contact details. We'll write our reports in a way that nobody can work out who took part in the study, so we always keep confidentiality. And sometimes we ask you if we can share things like the video clips to help with training, but we'll only do this if you've given your permission. So is it confidential? Yes, we keep your information safe, and it's only seen by the research team and occasionally students who take part in the research. This page is all about the legal requirements. So for us to collect data, we do that within a particular legal framework called public task and explicit consent. I'm not going to read the detail. Please let me know if you want to hear more about that. I'm very happy to talk you through. If you've got any concerns about what's happening legally, there is a place you can go. So this is data protection at city.ac.uk. You can email this number if you're worried. So what happens when the research finishes? We will tell you what we found out. We will also write articles in scientific journals and in magazines for people. We'll write about it on the internet, so in our blog. We'll talk about it at community groups, but we will never use your name. When the study stops, the data gets kept, as I was saying, for 10 years, and then after 10 years it gets destroyed. You can stop being part of the study at any time, but we keep any information we've collected up to that point. And if you agree to take part in the study, you have the option, so you can say no, of having your data shared with other studies in the future. And again, this is anonymous data, so just the numbers, not your name. If you want to find out more, you can get in touch. So this is me and my phone number and my email address. Lucy is the person who's in charge of this research project, and you can speak to her. If you're very concerned, you can complain, and there's a process for that, and that's here in this paperwork, and I'll share a copy with you. So there's an email address, there's a written address if you prefer. The study has been reviewed by the ethics committee, and they're happy that our processes are ethical. We have insurance, and again, there's ways that you can contact us if you've got any questions. Thank you very much.